How's it going, guys? My name is Alex Noble. This is for my 499 project. My inspiration for this cribbage board came from two specific pain points. One being, whenever you want to use the board, you have to have both the board and the deck of cards. And the second one being that since this is a folding cribbage board, the two halves of the board can shear on each other, thus breaking the hinge. Alright, this is a quick mock-up in SolidWorks, a 3D model of the cribbage board with the cutout for the deck of cards and the pegs, and then a little makeshift latch that I could think of off the top of my head. The first thing I did when I decided to make a cribbage board for my project was I headed to Home Depot, picked up a nice 1x4 oak plank, and started to dimension it out. As you can see in the video, I just used my calipers, a basic straight edge, and drew out the dimensions of the two halves of the board as well as where the holes were going to be for the drilling. Most of the machining for this project was pretty simple. I started out using a 1/2-inch end mill just to hog out the holes, get the rough dimensions lined out, and then I switched to a 1/4-inch end mill to clean up the edges and make the corners tight so that the deck of cards could fit in easily. While doing this, you can see I test fit the deck of cards a couple of times just to make sure it would fit. I wanted it to be tight but not too tight so that it wouldn't rattle, but that you could also get the deck of cards into the board. Once I had the holes in the bottom milled out using the manual mill, the next part of my project was I started to tap in the holes as guides for where I was going to drill it out. So I used an old cribbage board that I already had, taped a piece of paper over it, and punched out all the holes manually, and then taped it to the new half of the board to put in the guides of where I was going to be drilling. Here I'm using one of the mills in the Rogers shop to drill out each hole for the pegging holes on the top. This process sucked and it was really hard, but if I was to do this in the future, I would recommend using a CNC mill and programming it that way just to make it a whole lot easier. There are exactly 361 holes that I had to mill out for this process, including the starting and the finishing holes. The wood burning was one of my favorite parts of the project, but it was also one of the most challenging. I started off practicing on a spare piece of the oak that I had left over, and I probably should have spent a little more time on it, to be honest. Oak is really hard wood, and so it's hard to get a consistent, clean line in it. But I decided to wood burn it after practicing for a little bit because I thought it looked really good and it gave it a nice kind of rustic look. After a quick coat of varnish after the wood stain, here's what it looks like. I found a small door hinge at Home Depot. It's for a door, but I had to adapt it and kind of sand it down. I had to drill a couple more holes in it so that it would line up with the board. But then I screwed it all in, glued in a couple magnets, and here it is. There you have it, guys. Here's the finished cribbage board after the wood burning and the staining on it. The two ends are held together with 4 small neodymium magnets. This is the top part of the slot for the deck of cards. You pull out the deck of cards, and underneath is a slot here for the pegs. That way you don't have to carry both the deck of cards and the board. It's all in one small, tight, compact container. Thank you.